We're breaking in with a story that has quite literally shifted the entire geopolitical landscape overnight. For years, we've talked about the shadow war in the Middle East. Well, the shadows are gone. This has exploded into open conflict, and we're going to break down exactly how this happened, minute by minute.
It all started at 3:42 this morning. This message pops up on Truth Social from the 47th President of the United States. This wasn't a leak, it wasn't a rumor, it was a declaration. And with those 10 words, Donald Trump didn't just confirm the death of Iran's supreme leader. He lit the fuse on a whole new kind of war.
So let's set the scene. The date is March 1st, 2026. And the world just woke up to the news that 40-year undeclared conflict, all the assassinations, the cyber attacks, the proxy battles, that's all over. Now, the real war has begun. The stakes have never been higher, and you're going to want to stay till the end because some shocking things I am going to reveal in this video. So let's get back to the video.
All right, to really get a grip on this escalating crisis, here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the spark that ignited this whole thing. Then we'll go inside the unprecedented military strike itself. We're going to examine the absolute chaos in Tehran, analyze Iran's immediate and brutal counterattack, and then see how this is already hitting your wallet. And finally, we'll look at what the next 24 hours might hold.
So let's just quickly recap the situation as it stands right now. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is dead. In response, the IRGC, that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has already started mining the Strait of Hormuz. That's one of the most critical choke points for global oil on the planet. And at the same time, the major airports in Dubai and Doha have just gone dark, grinding international travel to a halt. This went from a regional conflict to a global crisis in a matter of hours.
So, the big question is, how did they pull this off? I mean, Iran has some of the most sophisticated air defenses in the world, and yet its leadership was surgically removed. This wasn't some lucky missile strike. No, this was a precisely targeted assassination, codenamed Operation Roaring Lion. The goal wasn't to hit a nuclear site, it was to take the head off the snake.
And this is where the technology gets absolutely wild. Reports are suggesting that the primary asset here was Israeli F-35 Odyssey stealth jets, the best of the best. And get this, they were likely supported by US electronic warfare platforms that essentially made them invisible, jamming and fooling Iran's Russian-made air defenses. The mission objective was crystal clear: leadership decapitation. And the target wasn't some remote base, it was the administrative heart of the regime, right in central Tehran.
And you know who confirmed the mission was a success? Tehran itself. Now, of course, the official announcement doesn't use the word assassination, but the language here says it all, declaring a 7-day holiday and 40 days of mourning. That is the traditional, official way the Islamic Republic signals the death of a supreme leader. This isn't just grief, it's a full-blown admission that the 86-year-old cleric who ruled for over 30 years is gone.
And that, right there, leads to an even more terrifying situation. What happens when you have a dictatorship without a dictator? You get a power vacuum. With Khamenei gone, the factions inside the Iranian regime are almost certainly about to turn on each other. The country's internal stability is basically evaporating as we speak.
And right now, two main players are stepping into the ring. On one side, you have Ghulam Hossein Mohseni-Ejei. He's the head of the judiciary, representing the old guard of the revolution. If he takes over, expect a brutal internal purge. On the other side is Ali Asghar Hijazi, the spy master, the head of Khamenei's personal security. He might not have an official title, but he commands the absolute loyalty of the IRGC. A fight between these two won't be a political debate. It's going to be a violent, bloody struggle for control. And all of this brings us to the absolute worst-case scenario for the West. What if the political factions can't agree? What if the infighting gets so bad that the IRGC just says enough and takes over? The risk of a military coup is incredibly real. And that would mean a military junta with no political oversight in control of a nearly nuclear arsenal. This isn't a distant threat. It could happen within days. But while Tehran is tearing itself apart, Iran's military has already kicked into gear. They have a pre-planned, automated response for exactly this kind of attack. There's no committee meeting, no deliberation. It's an immediate, furious retaliation aimed at every major US asset in the region. And look at these targets. These are not minor outposts. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, that's the nerve center for US air power in the Middle East, reportedly hit by ballistic missiles. Al Dhafra in the UAE, another massive hub, attacked by a swarm of more than 50 suicide drones. And the headquarters for the US Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, they're on general quarters alert, the highest state of readiness possible, meaning an attack is expected any second. Iran is sending a very clear message: we can still hit back, and hit back hard. Okay, so this is where the conflict officially lands on your doorstep, no matter where you live. This isn't just a news story anymore. Iran's counterattack isn't just military, it's economic, and it's designed to cause maximum pain to the entire global economy. So here's why you should care. Oil prices have already jumped 15% overnight. The IRGC has mined the Strait of Hormuz, and you have to understand, more than 20% of the world's entire oil supply passes through that tiny waterway. By threatening tankers there, Iran is putting a chokehold on the global economy.
And this chart just shows you how devastating this could be. Yesterday, oil was at $85 a barrel. Projections show that if this blockade holds for just another 48 hours, we could see prices skyrocket to $180, maybe even $200 a barrel. We're talking catastrophic inflation, prices at the pump like you've never seen, and the real risk of a global recession.
But it's not just oil. Iran is also weaponizing the airspace. Dubai and Doha, two of the busiest airports on the planet, have suspended all flights. Why? Because of intense GPS jamming in the Persian Gulf. Civilian planes can't navigate safely, and the risk of them being misidentified by military forces is way too high. So global travel, the flow of people and goods, has just been brought to a screeching halt.
So how do we get to this point? I mean, what is the strategy behind such an unbelievably high-stakes move? And what comes next? As we stare down the barrel of the most critical 24 hours of this crisis, we need to understand the doctrine that got us here and the terrifying questions the world is now asking.
What we're seeing is the first real-world test of what analysts are calling the Hegseth Doctrine, named for the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Forget long ground wars. The idea here is to apply swift, overwhelming, maximum force directly to the regime's leadership, hoping the whole system collapses from the inside. It is an incredible risk. The U.S. is betting everything that the Iranian regime will implode before it can launch its full-scale retaliation. It's the highest-stakes game of geopolitical poker you can possibly imagine.
And that gamble leaves us with three world-altering questions. One, will China, which is completely dependent on Iranian oil, intervene militarily to protect its energy supply? Two, will a cornered and desperate IRGC conduct Iran's first-ever nuclear test as a final act of defiance? And three, and maybe most importantly, will the Iranian people see this as their moment and rise up against a fractured, broken regime? The answers to those questions are going to define the future of our world.
Look, this is an unprecedented situation, and it's developing faster than anyone can keep up with. The global economy is teetering on the brink. For critical, ongoing analysis of this historic crisis, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We will keep providing updates as they happen. And watch the video that's now appearing on your screen. Stay informed and stay safe.